Hello.
Oh,
Can you hear
oh,
me?
there we go. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Cool.
Great.
Uh,
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for joining on
Oh,
such short notice. We had a speaker fall ill, unfortunately, and I'm so glad we were able to have you join us. So thank you so much on short notice for putting this together. I think with 3 days notice. So super, super huge thanks from us for putting this talk together so
no worries.
quickly.
No,
All right, well, I'll
no,
hand it
no
over to you
worries.
now.
This is great having. Okay, thank you so much. Um, Hello, everyone. I'll start my talk now. Um, so, yeah, that's our cool logo. Um, I guess everyone agrees it's cool. um, So first of all, who am I? As you know, my name is Zishan Ali, and I'm a bit of a nomad. So I've been living in different countries, and recently I've been in Germany, and I think I'm stuck here for a while. But I live in Berlin, so it's awesome as well. Yeah, and I work for a startup called Lumio. We have a great goal for creating a generic solution for edge to cloud machine vision solution. Check out our website, lumio.com, for more details if you're interested in that. And we're doing a lot in Rust, by the way. So. Um, and I have my background is in free and open source software, both desktop and embedded mostly. I'm not, I don't know anything about web stuff. So when I need to do anything web, I'm lost. But desktop and embedded, these are things I know, and I have a lot of experience with them. And I love flying. I'm into flying. I have licenses and stuff, and I love cats. I have 3 cats now. um, a bit of background story for the talk. I, I have a service called GeoClue, and I wanted to oxidize it, right, for multiple reasons. It's what it is. It's a geolocation service, and it uses dbus for IPC, and it's written in C. But what is dbus? Many of you might ask. It's very efficient binary interprocess communication protocol. On desktop and embedded on Linux, especially, it's very, very popular, and it's used by many projects out there. Did we lose my screen share?
Yep, it looks like we lost your slides. I'm not sure if you're still able to share from your device.
Uh, Firefox still says it's shared.
Yeah, might want to reload. Otherwise, I can pull up your slides real quick.
Okay, I'll do that. 1 second. Yeah, it's back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as I said, it's used by many projects, especially on Linux. Systemd uses it heavily, GNOME and KDE uses it. And there was also an attempt to put it in the kernel itself. So it's that important, at least for Linux. So I was like, okay, I need to use dbus because my service is a dbus service. So I created a crate for it. Sorry, I thought like there must be a crate for it, right? So I searched, and of course there's a crate called dbus-rs. But it depended on libdbus, which is a notoriously bad C library for dbus. I was like, okay, whatever. It's like I don't have to deal with that, right? But when I started to use it, it had a lot of issues in many ways. But still, I decided to use it because I don't want to invent a new thing just for the sake of it, and also I didn't have that much time. And I even contributed a bit in the beginning to it and in many things. But when we had a Hackfest last year in May, and in that time I started porting GeoClue to it, and I realized that it's just the API is just overcomplicated, especially the ones that I was using or needing. I was like, okay, should I just start dbus from scratch? like how hard can it be? So I was there for 3 days anyway for the Hackfest. So I was like, let's look at what it's involved, right? And we can see. And I pull out the spec and I checked, and on low level it's just message passing, and there's a wire format for that, and to encapsulate your different types of data into for dbus, it's also called gvariant, although gvariant is actually a different version of it. It has tiny differences to dbus wire format, but those differences actually mean a lot. So it's not like easy to switch. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about that later. But it's this format is used a lot, and gvariant is used outside dbus for easy database storage and stuff. And it's actually more efficient than the dbus itself, the dbus format itself. What it describes, the spec, is the different data types and their encodings and their padding and stuff, and they map very nicely to Rust types, right? So that was really encouraging. And on a high level, it's just a bit of object-oriented programming without any inheritance or any of the other controversial parts of object-oriented programming. So it has simply objects, which are just instances which provide the actual API, different kinds of API on them. And the way they provide the API is through something called interfaces. The interface provides you the methods. I'm putting out some example from a real world example in there. They're just like programming languages methods, right? In programming languages libraries. Signal is just a method call, but it's a broadcast. So it's like an event broadcast. And properties, which is just fields in a struct, for example, just like that. So I was like, actually, this is not that really hard. So I was like, let's just do it, right? So I started this project called zbus. Cool name, right? So yeah. But before I start, I have to come up with goals first, and then I have a bit of focus on what to focus on, what are the priorities and stuff. And the goals are two. One is easy. The dbus RS wasn't easy to use. It wasn't easy to even find out how to use it. That was the top goal, to have it as easy as possible. And also efficient. dbus RS is pretty efficient, but I think it's uses, as I said, libdbus. So it's limited by how efficient can it be because of that, as far as I know. But in any case, let's say libdbus RS is extremely efficient. So I wanted to have the same goal as well. But first things first, I wanted to write a pure Rust dbus library from scratch. So the first thing is, if you go from a bottom-up approach, you have to first implement the API for the wire protocol, the encoding of data and stuff. And for that, I created like a separate crate called zvariant, because the point is that in future I will also support a gvariant format, and as I said, that is used also outside dbus. So people will find this useful to be used outside of dbus. Spent several months, tried different approaches, and there was like failures on many things. Like I would have like a lot of progress, and then I'll realize, oh, this particular thing doesn't work. And I'll mention one of those later. The biggest problem that I had, a lot of fun with lifetimes, because as I said, efficiency was a goal, also fighting with dbus spec itself. Some of the things were not like specified very clearly, the requirements. So it was a bit of a fight. But fortunately, you can easily test it. As I said, it's used so much that you have a lot of test cases out there, so you can make calls and find out like if you're doing it the right way. But finally, we had a 1.0 release that was beginning of this year. I'm sorry. Dry throat. There was a lot of celebrations. But then I realized that I'm not dealing with empty arrays. Like it's impossible with the API that I created to do empty arrays. Um, so I have to rethink. Um, what about Serde? That was actually one of the first bugs that was filed on zbus. It was about why are you not using Serde? Um, and that was a good question. And I actually looked at Serde from the beginning, like when I just started off. But the thing is, like as I said, like I was not familiar with, I was familiar with dbus as a user, but not the spec itself. So I was already fighting with the spec and I was learning a lot of new things. And I wasn't that experienced with Rust, especially when writing crate. And especially if efficiency is the goal and all these goals. So I was already having a very hard goal. And I was doing this all in my spare time. So I didn't want to learn now Serde as well. As a user, Serde is pretty easy, but as an implementer of the serializers and deserializers, it's not super trivial. So I didn't want to get into that. And also, it hasn't been the best for binary, so binary protocol. So that was also the reason. But anyway, since that I didn't succeed in coming up with a good API, I was like, okay, let's give it a go. So I spent a few more months on this. I'm sorry, excuse me. So after spending like a few more months and had lots of more fun with lifetimes and everything, and learning a lot of Serde, um, I was able to do it. And we had to have a bit of a like the serializer and deserializer API we have is not the most usual. You have to pass one more requirement for it. We'll talk about that in the example code. So yeah, this is the Serde-based new API, which is the 2.0. Please ignore the last line. It's a bug in Reveal.js, the latest Git master or whatever. I found out yesterday, and I don't know how to fix it. Anyway, ignore the last line. It's as you will see, it's like very similar to, if you are familiar with Serde, it's very similar to how you use different formatted crates. 2 bytes and to encode from slice to decode or deserialize. It looks very normal, but you will see that one of the differences that you are passing a context, which we need because it could be different formats. Like as I said, like in future we will have dvariant, so you need to specify which format, and also the byte encoding. So that's not implicit in dbus. Yeah, it's not in the protocol that on the wire. It's not specified what byte order is being used. It has to be out of band from the data itself. That information needs to be conveyed, and in dbus you do that. It's in a message you send it. Yeah. Anyway, so you need to say which byte order and format, and that's the context. But there's one thing that is I managed to make invisible for most use cases here, and that is that. Sorry. The data you're passing for encoding, it doesn't have to just implement serialize or deserialize traits of Serde, but it also has to implement one more trait, which is a very simple trait, but you have to provide it because dbus uses something called a signature. Each data that goes on dbus has a signature, which is a string describing the data types. I cannot serialize and deserialize without that. So that is why you have one more requirement, but we provide a macro to implement that, so you don't have to worry about that. So for most types, you just use the macro, and we will do the handling for you. So in general, it's as simple as usual Serde workflow. I'm hoping you agree. So back to dbus, right? The progress were very slow. I was so busy, like the time I had, I was spending all of it on Z variant itself. So the dbus was just about sending a method call and stuff, and that was it. Um, and Around the same time, I found out that there is a lot of new people writing dbus scripts. It became a fashion a few months ago, and it was really surprising. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if they saw my talks or what, but people got inspired. Um, but what I was wondering was that why people are not helping me out instead to get zbus into completion instead. And of course, it's people's decision what they spend their time on. Who am I? And maybe they will come up with better crits. Who knows? But all I'm saying is that if you want to work on dbus, please first consider helping me out on zbus. And if you don't like the approach or whatever, and we can talk, right? If you don't like the approach, you can tell us what you don't like about the API. Maybe we can change it to how you like it, and then we can help each other out. If not, of course, you're free to do whatever you want. Yeah, so that's a bit of a request. But talking of helping me out, an old friend a few months ago came to a rescue. His name is Marc-Andre Leroux. We go way back. We have been colleagues multiple times. We have worked on same projects multiple times. It's our destiny to work with each other. Yeah, he needed dbus for something in Rust, so he decided to help me out instead of waiting out for me to complete it. And that helped a lot. He's an awesome hacker, so he really speeded up the project. We also had a lot of disagreements. Like when I say a lot, I mean a lot. But mainly they were about owned versus unowned. His use cases don't require unowned deserialization and stuff. And that's typically hard to implement. Like that was one of the challenges for me in Z-variant anyway, to encode. But I want this crate to be useful not just on the desktop, but also on embedded systems out there. So I want it to be, as I said, efficient, and you have to provide an unowned deserialization and stuff if you want it to be as efficient as possible. So yeah, we had disagreements on that, but ultimately we figured it out, and now we have all essential API already in place in zbus. Great. And how does it look like? Let's see. Let's start from the bottom. Like we have low-level and high-level API. The low-level API is also already very simple. If you look at it, you just create a connection. In dbus, you have like typically two main connections available on your machine. One is the system one, which is for global, and one is the session one, which is per user usually. You create the connection to that. You just then say which service you want to call a method on, which object you want it on, and which interface it is, and which the name and all the arguments, and then you get back the arguments, right? And then you can parse it, as you can see. This is actually a real world example. You can use it to light up the brighten up the screen of your laptop if you want to try it out. It's also an examples directory in our crate in our repo, so you can use it. Pretty easy already, as you can see, but that was a very simple interface. So, but when you're dealing with a complex interface, we have to do a bit better, and we have to provide a better API. So we go to the high-level API that we provide. And we use macros with that. We have a separate, of course, crate for macros, as you normally have to zbus macros, but we re-export it, so you don't have to worry about that. You can, and we recommend that you use the macros. You don't use the API directly without macros. It's cumbersome, it's complicated. So yeah, just use the macros to declare. So this is the client side. You declare the interface just like a trait. Once again, ignore the last line. It's the reveal.js bug. As you can see, it's very simple. And this is the notification API. And this is also a real world example, by the way. And this is how you use it once you declare it. You can instantiate it and then call the methods. Sorry. And this will display a notification on your desktop, Linux-based desktops out there. Server side is also very simple. You create an implementation, just like you implement a type, and you use the macros to tell it which interface it is. You can also declare the default object path and stuff. And then to use it, you just create something we call object server, and then you can host multiple interfaces on the same object as. Actually, I didn't say it, but each object can support multiple interfaces, and they are dynamic. So an object can have like an interface at a specific time, and then after a while it doesn't. So it's called pretty dynamic. But in any case, you declare it here that okay, from now on you have this interface, and you just serve it. You can loop it, and we handle all the incoming messages in this loop. Still not easy enough, if you think. We also provide XML. So the dbus interface has a specification like for describing your API in a language-neutral way, and that's a XML spec. So we provide you a way to translate, and you can introspect services, right? You can ask them like, give me your description, and it gives you the XML. So we automatically do that for you. So if you implement the service through our macros, we will deal with the introspection request from the client for you. So you don't need to worry about that. And also, we have a helper to, when the first time we want to create, for example, the client code, you don't want to do it all manually. You first want to use this helper to create the code for you, and then you can adjust as you want it to be. But yeah, it helps you out to create the code and the first time. And we have a book. It's not a big book, but for now, at least it's a small one. But we have like write sample examples and help you go through the API step by step. Yeah, check it out and let us know if there's something missing or if it can be improved. And it's in our repo, so you can improve it on the GitLab. You don't even need to clone the repository. You can use the web front end to change the. It's an empty book, so it's markdown, so you can just create the PR right there and then, and people have done that already. So it's super easy to contribute. Do you see the next slide? Okay, I have to do the same thing again, sorry.
So I'm sharing your slides. If you'd like me, and just tell me when to change the slide, or you can start sharing again.
No, I'm doing it again. Sorry, I got used to it.
No worries.
Sorry. So there you go. So release didn't happen. Of course, like a lot of people have been saying, like, yeah, that all sounds really awesome, and I've been presenting around about it, and they're like, where's the release? Like, when can we use it? So fortunately for you, and thanks to Marc-André, we are almost done. I just finished the last set of essential documentation that we need. And then there's one more issue that we need to address. And once that is addressed, we intend to release either today or tomorrow. So stay tuned. And we have a Twitter handle for zbus crate, so you can get the news from there. So we'll have 1.0 finally, and that will be awesome. And everyone will be super happy. So future plans, as I said, we need to support G-variant. The Z-variant crate without that is not very useful. You can use it, and if you want to store your information in an efficient way already in a dbus format, yeah, you can already use it, not a problem. But people already are using the G variant format, so that would make it even more useful. And yeah, as you saw, we were doing the loop to receive messages and stuff. And that is because currently all our API is completely sync, and that's because sync is easier to implement than async. But we really, it's on high on our agendas to make it work. Again, if you want to contribute, and especially if you are very familiar with async APIs of Rust, then this is a golden opportunity for you to make a major contribution. With that, we will also provide some kind sort of loop, event loop, where you don't have to manually loop through the incoming messages and stuff. So yeah, we really want that to happen soon. We're talking about embedded here, so no STD is in the plans, it's in the goals. Maybe we can make it work. We currently do quite a few allocations, but we have to do that. There's most of them, it's a bit hard to get around. So I don't know, I cannot guarantee 100%, but at least we can minimize the allocation as much as possible. We already do, and we will try to make no STD possible at some point. Talking of which, no alloc, that's much harder. As I said, we do quite a few allocation, and no STD we can do, but no alloc is much harder. So very doubtful, and we need to do many other fixes and improvements, of course. Yeah, so that's the talk. That was actually the last slide. So one sec. So in the meantime, if we have like 2 minutes or something for the.
Yeah, do you want to talk, or would you like me to ask some questions?
Yeah, questions are nice. Yeah.
Great. So someone's asking, so you needed to use dbus in an application for embedded Linux systems. What software needed to talk over dbus?
Sorry, could you please repeat?
No worries. So what were you using that needed to talk over dbus on embedded Linux?
My specific use case, because of which I started zbus, is I wasn't using it on embedded, which is, as I said, GeoClue service, but it's used on embedded systems, including Sailfish OS, which is used on these phones, and I forgot the name of the phone itself. But yeah, it's used out there, and also the old version of GeoClue is already in automotive, in the cars used already, as far as I know. So yeah, it's useful for at least GeoClue. But there's a lot of services out there that, like for example, systemd, it is used on embedded systems a lot. So it will be useful for that. For example, if anyone wants to do any systemd stuff in Rust.
Excellent. And do you know of anyone using Z variant or zbus in production or in pre-production yet?
No, as I said, zbus is not even released. So I don't think anyone is using it yet. But I've been told by many people that this is something they need. I'm pretty sure after the release, they will feel confident enough to start using it, because we don't break API after the release. And that's why the release was late, because we didn't want to do that.
Makes a lot of sense. I think we've got someone's typing, but I think that's all of the questions that we have. So thank you again so much, Zishan, for being here. We're going to go to break now for a couple minutes, and then we'll have our next talk, I think 45 minutes past the hour. So thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Zishan.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.